start with the swim in Ironman, Texas. So in the morning, you go to T1, you'll put your nutrition on your bike, you'll check over your bike the last time, you'll wish your bike goodbye, and then you'll take a walk through the woodlands to the swim start. So for that walk, make sure you have proper fuel, make sure you have proper hydration, and make sure you have proper footwear. Also, we would really recommend using that time to either, if you're an extrovert, release some energy by talking to other athletes, just chat with them, or with your family members. And if you're more of an introvert or just in general, you might want to take some time to center yourself, visualize your best race, just get yourself a little bit grounded before you hit the park where everybody is waiting to swim and the energy is going to be a little bit more chaotic. The swim itself can start off dark depending upon how far up you are in the swim corral, and it can be a little bit disorienting. So just remember, your goal in any swim is really just to focus yourself on the buoy that is in front of you and not worry about what comes behind that. So if you feel like you can't get a big view out in the front, it doesn't matter. Just find that next buoy, and those buoys are incrementally placed about 100 meters apart. Once you get into the canal, you'll have about 1,300 yards of people cheering you on either side. And that's every time you kind of turn to breathe, you'll be able to hear that and use that energy to boost yourself to the swim exit. You'll move right through T2 pretty quickly. Nothing good ever happens in transition. I mean T1, and then you'll be off onto your bike. All right, the bike. The bike has a portion that is more urban before you head out onto the Hardy Toll Road. So for that, use that time, start your fueling protocol, settle in, ground yourself with some mental cues, make sure, give yourself a kind of a full body scan, fuel everything, find that rhythm and flow before you get onto the Hardy Toll Road. Once you get to the Hardy Toll Road, then you can kind of break it up in, I guess, like 4 chunks, right? On that, the out, the back, the out, the back, and then you'll have the getting back to transition. So we're gonna usually face a headwind on the way out and a tailwind on the way back. So knowing that, it's really important that you check in with how you feel and what your heart rate is and what your power is doing, rather than worrying about, I need to hold X pace, because the pace will be much slower as you go into the headwind and much faster as you go into the tailwind. So we never want to force pace in a wind. We just want to move with the wind, stick with our metrics that we know are based more on our physiology, right? And then just have that positive mental attitude when the headwind is at you and enjoy that tailwind. Also, this is going to be the theme of the day. You need to stay cool. While it might not feel that hot on the bike, especially in the wind, humidity is the enemy in Texas, and you're going to need to combat that humidity. So you need to have a very sound fueling and cooling protocol that are going to start on the bike. So make sure you go over what your fueling protocol is, understand how you're going to have fuel on board on your bicycle, and then also how you're going to move through and use the aid stations if needed. You need to try and keep your core temperature cool. You can do that through the cool water that's offered to you on the course. And before you know it, you'll be coming back in, weaving your way back to T2. T2 is pretty straightforward. You're going to just check give a full body scan, right? Know that sometimes once you've gotten off the bike, it can feel a little bit worse than it might be in a couple miles. So give yourself the opportunity to go through that kind of little downtime that you might have as you start your run. Use the volunteers to your advantage in transition, right? They're helpful. They'll give you a pep talk. And then as you exit transition and start your run, you need to allow a couple kilometers to get into your rhythm and let things loosen up and open up. You're going to run through the crowds to start, and that's excellent. Again, the way that the course is kind of clustered around all of the bars and restaurants, it's going to lend itself to sections of the course that are going to be lonelier. So utilize those sections that have a lot of energy to remind yourself to sort of carry some of that energy with you when there are fewer people out there. If you find yourself in a low point, rather than focusing in on feeling low, we encourage you to actually kind of push the energy a little bit outward. So if there is someone on the course, give them a high five, smile at them, get them to cheer for you. And that give and take will loosen you up mentally and also actually physically. Another little tricky thing that happens in Texas is there's this little grassy knoll that you run up, and that can be a shocker for some people. You actually run right up this tiny little hill through the grass. So know that that's coming. Prepare yourself for that change in terrain. Focus on an open, strong chest, not looking down at the ground. Get to the top of that, and there's an aid station right after that where you can reset. And then cool, cool, cool. So make sure that you're working every single aid station. You're using ice. Even if you don't feel warm, utilize that. And then as you move through the miles, give yourself a little, internal cheer as you get one step closer towards the finish line. Okay, our pro tips are actually a little bit more for our support team than they are actually for our racers. So right across from T1, there is a grocery store complex. There's lots of parking. They will say they will tow you, and they mean it. So do not park there. If you want to park closer to where the swim start is, there's a Whole Foods and there's a parking garage there that if you can find a spot in, you can park there with ease. Don't just leave your car somewhere by T2, even if you're grabbing a bike, because you won't probably have a car when you return. However, if you are spectating, go into that grocery store, get yourself some fuel, get yourself some fresh water, get yourself some fruit, bring a little backpack so that you can walk out onto the course and move around to see your athlete on the run. That's the beauty of the Texas Ironman. You can get all over the run course depending upon how far you're willing to walk. If you have a big group of family, we would suggest you post some people at different increments so that your athlete isn't just seeing you and your whole crew in one spot, that they can grab that energy from their cheering and happy faces and people they love a couple times throughout the course. All right, we wish everybody the best of luck. We'll be out there on race day, and we can't wait to see you in Texas.